Welcome back to Pyre. I'm dear darling, and let us lead our band of exiles to their freedom and absolution, where we left on this not ridiculous, but nail-biting cliffhanger of what happened. The Shimmer Pool is now open to literally everyone in whatever this final cutscene is, and this is going to be the final episode of Pyre, almost certainly. And I'm sorry to leave it on such a cliffhanger, I suppose, on the end of last episode, but here we are now. Yeah, here we are. Just when Volfred approaches. What are you saying, Orlek? But we can all return. Volfred moves closer to his Shimmer Pool, but... Hold, Volfred. 'Tis a warning. Volfred recognises it and such and heeds it. The Shimmer Pool has lost most of its strength. You step inside, and you shall surely perish in the current. Of that I can assure you. Orlek shakes his head. Then, I am cheated once again. No, the Shimmer Pool is revealed, and one of you may still return as planned. But Orlek, as the victor of this liberation rite that ends an age, the choice of who is to return is no longer decided, but is yours. What? The choice of who is to return is no longer decided, but is yours. The choice of who is to return is no longer decided. What? Having to choose from those anointed. The last light of the stars is extinguished, and our rites draw to an end. This is the final trial of the scribes. The final trial of the scribes. All that remains, then, is for me to choose myself. Is that what you are saying? If that be your choice, if that is to be your choice, then yes. Oh, interesting. So, before there was no... So you could not choose before, right? Yeah, you had to win the rites. But now, on the final rite, this is the grandest test of the scribes of them all, I suppose, to deem if you really are worthy, is to choose. Is this going to be a rug pull where Orlek... Oh! Orlek is going to choose himself, but maybe it's like that sort of like Japanese myth thing where if you not choosing, well, I mean, but I'm talking about the golden axe and the woodcatcher or whatever, but he chooses himself. The rites deem him unworthy. That seems unfair. Why would they do that? If they chose himself and I was going to be like, and they kill him, I'm like, that's just mean. Why would they do that? I don't know. Maybe something good happens if he chooses someone else or some. I don't know. Why? How is this even a choice? What reason would I have to? Orlek, make your decision quickly, lest it be forfeit. I do not know for how much longer the light of a star shall offer you this gift. Why do I hesitate? Why do you hesitate? To have come this far. To have regained what ought to have already been mine all those years ago. Is it because you actually already secretly made peace with this entire thing, and it turns out that you were just sort of driven by a sort of desire of spite and petty revenge, rather than seeking what actually was the end goal of all of this in the end? You weren't really doing this to be liberated to go to a commonwealth which you hate and resent so much, but you were doing this despite and right something which you were wronged in the past, but now you finally reached it. You feel it difficult to choose for something which you weren't actually striving for? As a hunch? I don't know. He's probably about to tell us. Why now would I hesitate to claim my right? The final trial of the scribes. Orlek is lost in thought. Let him work it out. Reach out to him. Manipulate him. You are loath to tamper with the thoughts of one in the midst of a crucial decision. Perhaps you can help Orlek work through the troubles weighing down on him. Absolutely, I'm going to do that. A mind preoccupied becomes highly susceptible to unconscious influence. I see. So this is like one final choice. This, like, he would choose himself. This, I don't know what that would do. Oh, I bet this is... He chooses himself, doesn't help a plan. Chooses himself, helps a plan. Chooses Volfred? So this is like a one final chance? I don't know. Let's reach out to him. As Orlek struggles with the implications of a choice he has to make, you reach out to him, maintaining calm. Soon he becomes aware. You, shadow of a false night wings, I sense you lurking at the edge of my thoughts. Begone, you venture to a place more desolate than the one to which you have been exiled. But you remain with him. Soon your thoughts are known to him as well. You, all this time, you stood by them, clinging all the while to your faith that you yourself could still be free someday. I'll be honest, I kind of gave up on that really early. I don't think I can. Wait. He could choose me. Oh. So this is why Volfred said, neither me... Oh, so I didn't misunderstand. It was in the past. We weren't allowed... We were never going to go free, neither me nor Volfred, because we did not participate in rites. Until Volfred started participating, then he could go free. But now this is a one opportunity. been given for me to go free, because he could choose me. That's what manipulate must have been. Manipulate must be get him to choose me. That must have guaranteed my thing. So this I don't know what this must be. This must be sort of like, oh, how cool would it be if this is based off the decision that you made in the game? That he would either choose himself or me or Wolfred or whatever, right? That would be... I don't know if that's how it works, but I got to read up about the endings after I beat Pyre. How foolish. And Wolfred, the remorse which he expressed to me then, it was genuine. Has been all along, Orelek. This plan of yours, back when we stood together in the Rites, it was our plan. We kind of got spoiled by that, by the definition thing, but... Then Orelek seems to pull back from you and returns to his senses. My choice is made. Then, please declare it. He turns to you. He's gonna choose us to go. I actually feel mind blown because this is legit something I didn't even think would happen. I did not think we'd get an opportunity to go up. I actually gave up on it ages ago. I don't know, because I don't even know if I care about going up or not, but I kind of do care now that the rest of the Nightwings or the rest of my friends are up there. You there, shadow of the false Nightwings. I would have you be gone from here, back to the Commonwealth. Wow. This entire time we gave up the final liberation rights to free Orelek, and then he chose to give up his liberation to free me. That's so poetic. Wow, what an amazing conclusion to the end. Go, return, and realize that plan. The Gate Guardian studies him, betraying no emotion. The freedom I saw, my desire, for it is unlikely to be sated in the Commonwealth, which casts all of us here. So I was partially right. The freedom is not what you actually desired. The Gate Guardian turns to you as well. Oh, it's the Gate Guardian turns to you as well. Leader of the Nightwings, quickly please, do you accept the burden and the outcome of the choice? Oh, so I can refuse once more. You look towards Wilfred, who regards you with such understanding that leaves no room for doubt. Oh my god, if Wilfred believes. Your choice, leader. Orelek has... Oh, I could get Wilfred free. Orelek has offered you your freedom. Insist that Wilfred go free instead. He earned his rightfully, not just once. You cannot take something like this from him. You intend to prevail on his behalf. Perhaps there's still a chance. Humbly accept. This is your chance to finally be free after all you've been through. I just realized something. We can actually now do the thing that Hedwyn wanted. I'm gonna humbly accept because I think this is the nicest cap off point. I think this is the nicest way to round off everyone's story arc. We can make Hedwyn's promise come true of all four of us getting out of a downside. Oh, this is so satisfying. Oh, look at all these story arcs coming into conclusion at once. You know, Orelek understanding the liberation that he's so sought after. His vengeance is what he actually desired, not actually the liberation of Commonwealth himself that he won't find happiness for. Wilfred's plan's going to come to fruition despite the fact that he himself is not there to necessarily witness the end of it. But it's, you know, kind of what he stood for in the first place is for a betterment of the world. And us, who stood by and given up our chance every single time, has now finally been given the option to go free because of Orelek, who we already gave up our final liberation for in the first place, gave up his liberation for us. And then May and Bertrude are also here. Oh, this is... Oh, you can't tell how happy I am. I love it when story arcs come so neatly together and round off so nicely. Ah, I'm so happy. What is being offered to you is far too precious a thing to be declined. You accept. Thank you, Orelek, for this glorious opportunity, though. You've chosen to be free yourself. The choice is made, then. It is done. But I'm so curious to see if those decisions would change based on how you acted throughout the entirety of Pyre. I don't know, like, maybe about actions we chose to Wolfred and to Orelek before would be like, oh, you know, oh, do you think if we actually won, maybe Wolfred would have given the choice to us, or whoever we chose would have given the choice to us to choose who to go free again. And maybe they don't give you that option if you were, like, mean to them or, like, weren't interested in them before. I don't know. It is a visual novel, so I wouldn't be surprised if it does do something like that. But it also is like, isn't this game like 8 years old? So maybe it doesn't do that, I don't know. Wilfred looks to you one last time, his heart filled with unspoken understanding. Sorry, Wilfred, but I salute you. And plus, you and Orelek can, like, make up and be buddies now that he actually understands that you didn't mean him any ill will. You turn to Orelek for an instant, but another instant later, he is gone. He and everyone. All you feel is the coldness of a rush of water coursing all around you. Wait, did we take Sandra? We did take Sandra with us. I hope Sandra can also come with us. Orelek gave us freedom so that you may yet have yours. That's such a good. It's such a good end to the story. Is that us? We're a star?
No stars remain aloft.
Oh my word.
The cycle of the rites
I'm hugging this giant plushie that I have on my table first.
is finished.
Oh, what a satisfying ending to Pyre.
What shall become of it?
What? Ah.
What shall become of us?
I think I find it so satisfying because this is legitimately a twist I did not see coming. I never thought we'd actually get our opportunity to become free. So it was basically locked in my head being like, you know, we're just going to be down here forever. Wow. I want to go speak to all our friends again. You call me sappy. I'm a very sappy sort of person. Oh my god. Oh, and I was wondering why they kept asking about our past. And it was something that was not written in the stars. It was something that we get to choose ourselves. I wonder if this probably influences the outcome. The night an exiled reader returned to the Commonwealth, she was to be the last. The stars had faded, and the cycle of rites had run its course. That literally was it forever. Wow. Turn up the music slightly, as you always should do in the ending. She found the Commonwealth in great upheaval. Spurred by the effort of 6 liberated exiles, Fulford Sandalwood's revolutionary plan had incited the masses. 6? We only liberated 6 people? Hold on. Hedwyn, Ruki, Jodariel, Pamitha, Tizo, Sir Gilman, and us. Wait. Didn't we liberate someone else as well? I don't know. Has incited masses. These exiles and the starless sky portended the return of the scribes. The people surged into the streets, shoulder to shoulder. Ah, so this is... So I assume this ending changes based on if the plan succeeds or not. Led by the 6 exiles, their voices shook the heavens. The leadership of the Commonwealth panicked. So it worked? No blood was shed that night, and by dawn it was over. Nice! So we had a peaceful revolution. That's cool. That probably is because we liberated so many people, right? So basically everyone was on our side. The leaders of the Commonwealth had cast themselves back into exile, or joined in this new cause. Thus, in the 838th year, the Commonwealth had fallen. We did it! The new Saurian Union declared its sovereignty in the next year. Among the changes its elected leaders ushered in, they vowed never to cast their people into exile, and they abolished the old Commonwealth decree forbidding literacy. Yes! Yes! Today we still remember all of this. And we remember the exiles of the downside, whose deed led to the dawning of our age, whether they returned or not. Oh, is there going to be like a hall of fame for all of them? Oh my word, but everyone is here. Including all the people who... Oh! So this shows basically the splash screen at the end of who could have been liberated and stuff at the end. We get to see everyone's story! No! Yes! This is the sort of thing I love. Hedwyn. After his liberation, Hedwyn was instrumental in the events leading to the fall of the Commonwealth and was vital to the outcome of the plan. The peaceful outcome of the scribe's return, inspired by liberated exiles, the people of the Commonwealth demanded new leadership. Cast yourselves down, chant from the scribe's return. It was attributed to the several key factors. One of them was the underlying ambition of the plan itself. Another was Hedwyn's visibility among the people in the streets. Identified to be a liberated exile, he was believed to be Golgothanian reborn. Ah, yeah, okay, so there probably is a thing if you manage to do all 8 scribes liberated. Oh no, hold on, wait, what? But you can't even liberate 8 people, can you? More importantly, however, was that one of the winged harps of highway remnants accompanied him. She was later identified as Fikani Shang. That's his lover, right? A harp from Hedwyn cared deeply. They were separated when Hedwyn was exiled. Oh, he found his lover. Their bond was symbolic of what was at stake that night and provided vital to the peace that followed. In all his days as leader of the Saurian Union, Hedwyn often confided in his friend Jodariel. Our nation fought, so he became the leader, I see. Formed in 839 AS after the fall of the Commonwealth. I thought it was 836. Oh well. One day we all may stand shoulder to shoulder with a common cause, Fulford Sandalwood. Despite her intense manner, there was no one whom he trusted more in times when circumspection was required. Hedwyn would often think back about how the vow he made at the beginning of his quest for freedom. Although he cherished all the friendships he made, he had pledged Jodariel, Ruki Greentail, and the reader, that's us. You, the reader, you were once exiled and sentenced to life in downside, now you're free. Once merely the status of a deviant, yet now a revered title in the Saurian Union. of the Nightwings that they might all be free to get again together. His promise had come to pass, but he always knew that this was not his own doing. He was always deeply grateful to the other three, his closest friends. While the others who stood with the Nightwings were not able to remain in contact with us, Hedron thought of each of them often, and so in turn did they oft think of him. Wait, so hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it literally is impossible to free 8 people to mirror the 8 scribes. I really thought that would have been a thing. Shame. Oh, hello, Tizo. The imp called Tizo was the first of his kind to achieve liberty through the rites. While he was not the only imp trained in the way of the scribes, imps are native to the townside and thus care not for travelling abroad. This made them useful to triumvirates. Yet Tizo had a different calling, and the Nightwings believed that he too could play a key part involved with Sandalwood's plan. During the night of the scribe's return, he stood out to the populace as something of a miracle. They had only heard of downside imps before from the legends of Howl the Swallow. I wonder if this had a big impact actually on the thing working. First of the 8 scribes. Imp of rare intellect. Showed compassion to Solomon Melf who fell into exile. Afterwards, he became somewhat of an icon representing both the fall of the Commonwealth and the beginning of a new era. So he became the icon of the revolution. Wilfred Sandalwood would sometimes send him little gifts, all the way from the downside. Despite the insurmountable distance between them, their friendship proved more than resilient. It's adorable. He often chirped about the reader of the Nightwings, with whom he built quite a rapport. The reader understood him perhaps better than anyone. And Tizo would often express wistful gratitude for all the time conducting the rites alongside the Nightwings, who made such sacrifices for him. Other than that, Tizo was diligent about his role of something of a living artifact and helped interpret for the messenger imps that relayed the news to and from the downside. Despite having gained significant celebrity, he never let it go to his head. Okay, I don't regret liberating Tizo anymore, although he did take full advantage of his access to the Sarian Union's fishing industry. Okay, not regret, but like I was like, should have been Tizo of May. But you know, he became the face of a revolution. How can I be mad at that? When the worm Gilman returned to the Commonwealth, he believed that he had regained something even more important than his freedom, his honour. Gilman relinquished his knighthood and declined an opportunity to serve as captain of a blood border. He was not interested in fighting any longer. Yet, as is sometimes the case with those such as he, a circumstance soon came about in which there came a need for him once again to make use of his military training. Oh, what? Thankfully, however, the scribe's return ended peaceably. Gilman was on edge throughout the night, expecting violence to erupt at any moment, but the moment never came. And when the matter was at last put to rest, then Gilman truly knew his time as a knight had ended. He declared to all those in earshot that he would never fight again. Unless, of course, there arose some other extraordinary set of circumstances again requiring him to fight, but he had certainly hoped not. He still trained regularly just in case, with his fleet-footed friend Ricky Greentail. They became best friends! He was always grateful to the counsel of a reader, and would regale her over and over the time they squashed the spawn of unfathomed plans. By the point, he had long forgotten about his days under the leadership of Sir Deluge, his former commander. Breaking free of his abusive leadership was his first step towards gaining a bit of self-respect. Gilman never did return to his homeland of a sea dominion, and was content to lead a monastic life on a small residence in the hills. It was just high up enough to make him keep striving to conquer his fear of heights. My heart, it feels so warm. Other than that, an intense daily training regimen and the occasional visit from an old companion was more than enough to keep him optimistic and engaged. He knew by then that honour was not something to be won, but a contract with oneself to be renewed each day. Wonderful. With so many people to look like Falcon Ron, what on earth? I didn't even know we can influence Falcon Ron's ending. After a cycle of rites ceased turning, records of what happened to the Black Wagon of Nightwings became inconclusive and contradictory. Some accounts suggest that the exiles of the Nightwings who remain in the downside continue to make use of the Black Wagon as a place of shelter and a means of travel. However, there is no record of what happened to the wagon's contents, such as the Book of Rites of Beyond a Crystal, said to be haunted by the apparition of Sandra the Unseen. We took her with us. One possibility is that when the lone minstrel took his leave, he took Beyond a Crystal with him, for he was thus obliged. By this line of reasoning, however, the Black Wagon itself should have been taken also. Others remain sceptical that Beyond a Crystal ever existed, or rather that the visions that it granted were anything other than the result of an active imagination or a fever dream. The bog dwellers of the southern bogs offer still another explanation, for they are familiar with the binding enchantments. If there existed such an object, in which the Sisters of the Arch had expelled for more than 800 years, then the enchantment could have expired along with the lights of the stars. What this would have meant for Sandra and Beyonders is difficult to say for certain, other than it may have meant that they were finally released. Nevertheless, the fates of Sandra and Beyond a Crystal remain unknown, yet the exiles of the Nightwings who claim to have seen this apparition all spoke of her with degrees of reverence, or perhaps a little of fear. But we know she was with us. Can you believe this, reader? Honestly. Sandra's appeared before you, as well you can see. We're so far from the mark with all this nonsense. I want to laugh. In fact, here goes. She laughs. She refines the account of her. You sense she does not care for it. Oh, let them gossip as all they like. I merely wish that they would mention you at least in passing when next they're at it, though they shall never know even the half of it, shall they? Sandra seems irritated by the incomplete account of what happened to her. Reassure her, humour her, remain silent. Sometimes Sandra just needs little time to vent. She values that you listen. Perhaps making some light of a situation will make Sandra feel better. The account was relatively flattering despite a lack of detail. Could have been worse. You suggest to Sandra the account of what occurred to her was really not that bad, and that you liked aspects of it. You're much too diplomatic, you know that. You know me. You can tell she is unswayed, and yet her grin remains intact. She appreciates the gesture. Anyway, let us keep going, lovely reader. We know the truth of it. That is what matters. She fades into beyond a crystal for now, and you tuck it away, safe. So I guess we made a relationship start between Sandra and the reader. That's interesting. I'm so sorry, May. Okay, hold on. Let's see what happened to everyone who got free first, and then we'll do everyone. And then we'll do the people who didn't. After Rookie Greentow earned back his freedom, he returned to a lavish welcome ceremony in the Commonwealth, as was a tendency for liberated exiles. It was everything he could have hoped for, and soon he was well off, surrounded by luxury and choosing between various exciting opportunities. However, he must have given in to his better judgment, as he did end up siding with Wolfred Sandalwood's revolutionary forces, as he promised. On the night of a scribe's return, Greentow was there with the others, inspiring the masses. He never looked prouder, the very image of Jomir Many-Mane himself. When dawn finally came, and it became clear that the Commonwealth that everybody knew would be no more, he realised that many new opportunities awaited. He began quite a lucrative career for himself, manufacturing and selling replica merchandise inspired by the downside. His main struggle was to meet demand. It didn't say in Sir Gilman's thing that people looked at him upon as I forgot the 8 scribes who was a worm, but they didn't look upon him like that, did they? An aspect of his conscience cautioned him against making light of such a thing, but the money was too good, and soon his family was as well off as he always said. "Ah, I'm glad he found his fortunes in the end that he so strived for." One of his orders of business was to seek out one of his old companions, Pyre, to whom he took a liking during their quest for freedom. They bonded further over love of drink and supported one another through uncertain times that lay in store. I didn't realise they had a relationship blooming. I don't know if I just missed the hints or whatever, but he also kept in close touch with Gilman, ever the perfect practice partner. They were trained together often, taking care to stay in tip-top shape as much as possible throughout the years. Greentow always did his best to keep in touch with all his many friends, and knew that he owed his fortunes to them. He made a special point of staying close with a group of friends he came to know so well during his time with the Nightwings, wherever they were. They shared a special understanding that put even Greentow at lost for words sometimes. Wow. Jodario? After I should have done all of these narrations in their voices. That probably would have made more sense. Or maybe not, I don't know. After her liberation, Jodario soon became an icon of a movement that led to the collapse of the Commonwealth and the rise of the Saurian Union. Her horns and stern countenance inspired the people to believe that she was Solia Mer reborn. She became a great, if reluctant, leader. In the uncertain times that followed, Jodario's seasoned expertise often came into play both in matters of security and of state. For instance, she conscripted and trained a team of volunteers in public safety. The community did not know what to make of such a cordial bunch at first, but soon came to value their service. They have stood for the people ever since, and we celebrate their founding day every year. She remained close to Hedwyn all through this experience. They supported each other through their struggles many, many times. She often had to stop herself from fearing for May, whom she had tried to look after as much as possible on the downside. I'm sorry that I didn't liberate May. I'm sorry. I want to liberate all of you, but I couldn't. Or at least one more. Soon she would reassure herself that May was very capable of surviving on her own, and in fact she was not mistaken. She never settled down with anyone, though. From time to time she thought about Ignarius to spite herself. Oh yeah, I guess if Ignarius got liberated, they would end up as an item. And surely you still remain in correspondence with May and Wolfred and people technically, because if Wolfred can send stuff to Tizo, surely Tizo would relay the message, you know? Or maybe we just didn't stay friends, I don't know. She continued training on her own, a regimen that grew stricter with each passing year. There were those who sought to train with her, and she sometimes obliged. There remained one other constant in her life. She would always remember her days among the Nightwings, and with fondness for Miss Part. I never actually paid attention to Pamela's hair. What on earth is your fringe, girl? What is that? After regaining her freedom, Pyre found herself in a difficult position. Having once betrayed her people of Highway remnants, she knew that she would not be welcome in her native home. She did not trust the Commonwealth either. Instead, she found her place among Volfred Sandalwood's agents who were busy doing their part to fulfill the plan. As it turned out, the plan was successful. Pamela stood shoulder to shoulder with her other fellow former exiles, and truly they were a sight to behold. A disturbing rumour later spread that night the highway remnants were slated to mount an assault, which for some reason never came to pass. Pamela denied any knowledge or involvement. Oh, so it's actually a really good thing that we got Pamela there. I wonder if that help contribute quite a lot to the highway remnants not attacking her. Afterwards, Pamela played an active part in negotiating terms between the highway remnants and a new nation that would become the Saurian Union. Oh, so she became a diplomat. Her previous attempt at something of its sort led her to exile. She must have felt some satisfaction to succeed this time around. Sometime later, Pamela had an unexpected run-in with Rookie Greentail, with whom she had spent a fair amount of time with travelling with Nightwings. Really? Did we? Didn't we liberate Rookie really soon after we actually found Pamela? I'm not sure if I can't remember the timeline, but under these new set of circumstances, it turned out the two had more to talk about and rather more in common. They would often put to test which one was able to outdrink the other. It is unclear as to which one of them prevailed in that contest in the end. One day, Pamela received an invitation to return to the highway remnants, where she was to be fully pardoned. She held out hope that she might see her blood sister Tamitha there, knowing full well that Tamitha did not regain her freedom. Tamitha did later learn that Tamitha was welcomed back by their people, however she never responded to her blood sister's attempt to contact her. Tamitha in turn did not expect forgiveness from her at any point. Nonetheless, she kept on trying to reach out. She said to ruffle up her feathers just a bit. Later, when asked, Tamitha Fane admitted she felt as though she had no home to call her own. This was during an interview conducted amid an extensive trip abroad, for she had travelled thousands of leagues beyond the bounds of the Saurian Union. Tamitha continued to journey thus, citing that it reminded her of when she was younger and could fly unfettered. I wonder. I guess everyone has like a sliding scale of their story, right? I'm basically out of water right now. Or basically like a terrible ending for them and the best ending. And you can't get the best ending for literally everyone, but certain combinations of who gets liberated unlocks better endings. So I assume with Tamitha, if we get like a peaceful revolution. A peaceful revolution, but highway remnants don't attack the Commonwealth. And Tamitha's liberated. They make amends. And Rookie has to be there as well? I'm not sure. Excuse me. Let's see what happened to May. Long after Rites ended, May admitted she knew well before the fact that she would not be going home. Again, at least she had a very strong feeling. Rites spoke to her. She ended up not minding very much because she had little to return to in the Commonwealth. Her sense of home had changed. That's exactly my justification of why I did not liberate May in the end. So I'm glad that's how she felt. She took to wandering from one celestial landmark to the next, ever paying homage to the 8 scribes who she believed had influenced all that transpired. Oh yeah, because that's also the scribes like Homeland, right? So I guess it makes sense that she managed to stay there as a sort of like messiah or whatever. She was no stranger to travelling alone, but was happy to have company. Through it all, she would have wondered how her little friend Teaser had fared. While they were divided now by a great distance, he always remained in her heart. Though they could not see each other any longer, May often thought about Jodariel and spoke to her as though she were there. Oh, that makes my heart sad. May tried never to make a decision without first consulting her idea of what Miss Jodariel might say. One day she encountered one of her former adversaries, one called Alma Oldheart, who had served her fate. She remembered him much more than he did her, but only just at first. Their shared experiences in Rites and their different points of view about the scribes form the basis of what grew to be a long-lasting relationship. May always was devoted to her faith, but more so to her friends. Her gentle manner and unwavering conviction often helped them brave a life in the downside, both with courage and with grace. I'm glad she got a reasonably happy ending. I'm sorry it could not have been perfect. Several exiles of the Nightwings cared more for the plan of Sandalwood than to return... Several exiles of the Nightwings cared more for the plan of Sandalwood than to return home from the downside. The crone Big Bertrude was a prime example. She had found a suitable environment to live within the dismal region known as Flagging Hands. There she had built up a thriving place of business known to many exiles in the land. With Rites having ended, she returned to her preoccupations, working away almost as though nothing had happened. When one gets to be more than 400 years of age, perhaps an even monumental events such as the culmination of Rites or the collapse of a Commonwealth are seen as trifling matters. Makes sense? Much of her efforts was doubtless due to her influence with Sandalwood, someone whom she had admired now for decades. He had made clear that he could not requite her feelings for him, but what could have been a hurtful dismissal led only to a deeper understanding between them. By and large, Bertrude kept focused on her work, whether casting small enchantments or imbuing talisman. The work brought her a sense of purpose, she would say. Inside the Commonwealth, such services were strictly forbidden, but the downside, there was a real need for simple luxuries, which a competing slug market could not always provide. Thus did Big Bertrude continue to live up to her name, and the tale of her days of the Nightwings made her that much more than a living legend. Nice! I need more water at some point, hold on. I have like one more gulpful left. Oh god. When the cycle of rites ceased turning, Wilfred Sandalwood turned towards the starless sky and closed his eyes, and prayed. It was all he could do at the stage of a plan. For his ambitious plot to spark a revolution, as peacefully as possible, we stand together shoulder to shoulder as the scribes themselves once stood. He aspired to assemble with liberated exiles representing each of the eight largest ethnic groups composing a population of a commonwealth. They would stand together as a vision of 8 scribes returned, inspiring the masses to embrace an older set of values from before the commonwealth had tightened its grip. With rites ending sooner than expected, this ideal scenario became impossible. Oh, so it literally is always impossible. Because we could only ever liberate 7 people. Sandalwood's own freedom, for instance, was now forfeit. However, the plan did have contingencies. Fortunately, most of the contingencies did not prove necessary. Word reached him that on the night of the scribe's return, his fellow liberated Nightwings stood together, and their voices echoed through the streets. These former exiles, who ought to have disappeared into ranks in the Commonwealth's own leadership, now stood united with its people, who poured from their homes in solidarity. It was imperative to Sandalwood that they stand against the Commonwealth being peaceful in its nature. An overwhelming show of popular support would be more than enough. Ensuring this was his priority, and in the end, the result was self-evident. The plan's goal had been achieved. Sandalwood kept busy after that, as much as possible providing counsel from afar to those who would be at the forefront of a birth of a Saurian union. Of course, being stranded with downside meant that there was only so much he could do. Resting assured that the future of the nation was in capable hands, he turned his attention to the remaining exiles of the downside. Yes, he's making the downside a better place. They might never return to that new nation, but at least they could experience its triumphs and its struggles in some vicarious way. So he took his old work, writing and printing. As literacy began to spread throughout the Saurian Union, so too did exiles of the downside take to it. For his part, Sandalwood helped to teach as many as he could. For more than that, he provided a material to read, a semi-annual report about the latest events both in the Saurian Union and the downside. This periodical gave many exiles something to look forward to. Yes, I knew he would better the downside. He enjoyed exchanging letters with the readers of the Nightwings, who kept himself well abreast of how their other comrades, the fledgling nation, fared. It is said that at some point he made amends with his old one-time friend Orelek, with whom he clashed during the days as exile. After that, they seldom travelled separately. Nice! As Wilfred gained more fame throughout this land for all of his sacrifices and his contributions, it is said that he remained steadfast about 2 things. The first was that the cause itself ought to remain the focus. The freedom that the people had achieved, it was a gift to be cherished, a set of values that needed to be nurtured. The second point he made was that he himself had little to do with the outcome. He would often praise the exile of Nightwings who had stood with him, each in turn by name. He would never forget any of them. One day, to commemorate his birthday, the people of the Saurian Union unveiled a monument depicting him and the Nightwings as imagined in their prime. While Sandalwood did not learn of it until much later, it is said that he was moved to tears then by that gesture. Oh, I'm moved by tears. Well, okay, not moved to tears, but it has since ensured that those of us with memories more valuable than that of Sandalwood likewise remember the achievements of his fellow former exiles and our cause. I'm going to be honest, I need to take a pause here. I'm not going to end the episode. I need to take a pause to actually get some water in real time. Although it would just be a blink of an eye to you, so apologies. I pause for now. Okay, I'm back in a blink of an eye with a hydrated throat. That's a terrible way to say that. And some water in tow. Hello? Okay, what? It seems like our mouse influences where we go. Okay, let's see what Falcon Ron. What happened to him? We'll leave Celeste and Tariq and I guess the thing at the back will last. Although I'd imagine we have to click on everyone to actually see what happened before we can move on. With the rights drawn to a close, the slug market's revenues fell precipitously. Yes, and Falcon Ron was forced to liquidate his assets and close up shop. Yeah, as it is sometimes the case of a lot of his entrepreneurial leaning, this time of hardship led to an epiphany, or at least a sudden change of fortune. One day, Falcon Ron had a run-in with a messenger imp bearing news on the other side. Ron gave to it one of his remaining trinkets which could not be sold. The following week, the messenger imp returned to him bearing a tidy sum of wealth in the newly minted coinage from the Saurian Union. Falcon Ron cut a long-term deal with a messenger imp then and there. Through his trade, though his trade remained a grey area from a legal standpoint in the Masarian Union, the newfound fame of a downside caused the Falcon Ron's good to explode in popularity. He later signed an elaborate agreement with Big Bertrude's and found a distribution partner on the other side through Rookie Greentail, whose own business had expanded. Especially in the Masarian Union, Falcon Ron's goods are still known for their superior quality, though he assumes no liability for any side effects. Oh, good. I didn't know Falcon Ron would have a happy ending like that too. We had to use our mouse to actually get down here. I don't know why the controller doesn't work. Here we go. Armor and Dalbert, that's his name. I still gotta drink a little water. As the cycle of rights drew to a close, it grew evident that a chance at freedom from the downside had forever slipped from Dalbert and Alma Oldheart's grasp. Thus, they and the exiles of the fate returned to Jomia Valley. There they struggled to get by, as exiles of the downside tend to do. Sometime after the rites have ended, the Oldhearts at last heard the news that the Commonwealth had fallen. This was well after the fact, of course, but it brought old Dalbert great joy. Despite his forthright manner, he had no love of a nation that cast him down along with his son. Dalbert Oldheart passed peacefully in a sleep before the next new moon. Aww. In his final days, he implored his son to undertake a pilgrimage to the scribes. Alma never shared his father's view of the scribes, but respected Dalbert's wishes, and so, after a period of mourning, Alma began a new journey. One day during his travels, he ran almost headlong into another exile after paying homage at the spring of Jomia. He was stunned to find that it was none other than the one he knew as May from their days as adversaries in the Rites. May was overjoyed to see him, though Alma was unable to bring himself to understand why. Eventually, of course, he did, and they remained together, growing ever more accustomed to their new lives in the downside. Not a day went by that Alma Oldheart did not think about his father and give thanks to him and speak to him at morning and at night. Would that the stars yet shone? For surely Dalbert's would be there among them, smiling down at his son, watching over him and his kin. Oh, he got a happy ending too. What about you? You're a crooked police officer or something, right? We basically did nothing for your story, so... who knows what happened to you? After a final liberation rite, Lendo refused to believe that rites have truly ended. He would sit through night after consecutive night, staring into the blackness of the sky, awaiting any kind of sign that he might gain another chance at freedom. No such sign ever came. His fellow accusers started to express concern for him. Survival had been their top priority once liberty had slipped from their grasp, but Lendo dismissed them as weak fools. He insisted, rather forcefully, that any evening now the stars would shine for him again and mark the way towards his inevitable freedom. He was, of course, mistaken. The others in his triumvirate were left with little choice but to abandon him. After that, the exile known as Lendo the Liar was never seen again. Oh. However, there's been sightings of a bedraggled demon who wanders the downside and bears Lendo's cruel countenance, suggesting he yet lives. Right, so, well, that's not a very good story for him, but... oh well, I suppose. All his life, Sir Deluge has fled from one danger only to find him facing another. He had escaped the war-torn waters of the Sea Dominion, he had escaped the blood border of the Commonwealth, and now he had escaped the Rites. After the Rites had ended, many exiles wrapped up in the ancient tests were crestfallen as their last chance to return to their homes vanished along with the stars above. But Deluge did not mind, for this outcome meant that at last there was no burden of responsibility weighing down on him. While most of his fellow exiles of the Pyre Huts yet longed for the waters of the Sea Dominion, driven as ever by their impulse towards conflict, Deluge settled down. With him remained one of his companions, one Lady Seagrass. She's a one-night duty-bound serving Sir Deluge and the Pyre Huts, who had taken a liking to him for some reason. Reportedly, they dissipated into the waters of a worm gulf, which may begin to explain the significant increase in worm population observed in the vicinity. Well, the implications of that you can draw out for yourself. After the cycle of her rites had ceased, Witch Unmilled returned to her Flagging Hands region, where she sealed herself with a pit of Minith. There, even her fellow exiles of the withdrawn allegedly grew unnerved after a time and left her to her vile work. Sometime later, Pit of Minith erupted into flame. So intense was the conflagration that it could be seen all the way from Jomia Valley. Arson was suspected, though the cause was never verified, and many bog dwellers in the region were forced to flee. A tempest blowing from the north finally quenched the flames. When at last the ashes settled, and the ground had cooled, the sites of the fire was scarred beyond recognition. No trace of Witch Unmilled could be found. As for the contents of a Pit of Minith, which notably included a profane object thought to be the remains of Islak, all of it was gone as well. Back in the Masarian Union, Unmill's repeated threats of the eternal Islak were thoroughly investigated, and no credence was found to be in any of her claims. Weird. Okay, I wonder what she did then, and what happened practically in the end. Barker Ashbors never had much interest in returning to the Commonwealth, for he always found it bylaws to be stifling, so when the rites ended, he did not care at first. He soon grew very bored. Rites had given his life a sense of structure he had always needed. He missed the raw anticipation of it all. He decided to continue conducting rites for the thrill of it. I was thinking this. I was like, I'm surprised no one was just like, yo, let's just make the rites a sport, just to play. But it makes sense that Barker would do it, wouldn't it? He's always for the thrill and the fun of it, isn't he? He bent some of the rules and replaced some of the objects, but it was close enough. His packmates, the dissidents, proved more than happy to participate, and thus they ran against each other back in Yomia Valley. Gradually, other exiles familiar with rites, as well as those who had not heard of it all, started to take interest. They ended up giving Barker Ashball some healthy competition. His old food with Rookie Greentail ceased meaning anything to him, and he forgot all about it amidst his new pursuits. Ultimately, even Barker Ashball, who had led such a directionless existence to that point, found something of a calling through the rites. Whether he took the rites less seriously than any other exile of his time, or more, was often debated by those who watched him work. That's pretty cool that even he got like his sort of happy ending. Now Tamitha's I'm curious about, because I don't think she has a very happy ending from what we heard about from Tamitha. Throughout her exile, Tamitha Tane was motivated by a single goal: to return to the Commonwealth and exact vengeance on her ancient enemies. When she realised that the rites had ended, and that she would never see her mountain home again, she nonetheless remained determined to aid her people however possible. She had gathered certain information pertaining to the intentions of the Nightwings, who had formed a pact to regroup on the other side after the liberation. Other such reports exposed certain weaknesses in the Commonwealth defences, and revealed to the Highway remnants the opportunity for a risky but potentially impactful strike, but Tamitha put an end to that. As Tamitha could not participate in the assault, she learned what happened well after the outcome. On the night known as the Scribe's return, the Commonwealth had fallen. The Highway remnants thus prevailed at last without even having to fight. Oh, okay. Soon after the fall of the Commonwealth, Tamitha learned her blood sister Pamitha was an accessory to the successful outcome. Tamitha was very skeptical of this, but as similar reports kept mounting, she soon accepted the prevailing opinion, however grudgingly. Once a messenger imp arrived bearing some sort of message, seemingly from Pamitha. However, Tamitha turned it away. She would not give in to an impulse to forgive. Knowing that the conflict on the other side had ended, Tamitha retreated to the crags of Black Basin and grew ever more distant. Those closer to her surmised that her inability to reconcile with her blood sister was at the heart of this. For her part, Tamitha never once admitted to any such weakness. So I wonder how we reconcile their differences. Because we did fight against Tamitha twice, didn't we? I assume the only way you can reconcile it is by getting Tamitha liberated, but that's the only thing I can guess. Oh, Manly. When Manly Tinderstoff realised the rites had ended, but he no longer could return to the Commonwealth through this ancient means, he was outraged. He cursed the scribes being forth such a slew of blasphemy as to be very unbecoming of his high status and bearing. When at last he calmed himself, he focused all his energies on attempting to find another means of homecoming. He maintained regular contact with his wealthy family on the other side via messenger imp, and used their vast resources to explore other means of escape. He tried using an elaborate pulley system. He attempted to retrofit a flying black wagon with superior propulsion. He tried an imp raft and hot air balloon, even prayer. Nothing worked. There was only one way to escape the downside, and now it was gone. Tinderstoff bankrupted his family with vain attempts. Oh no! At last, such was his shame that he retreated to the teeming woods of Black Basin, to Cindery. There he yet wallows, complaining to his comrades of a chastity who still put up with him, either about his own misfortune or the latest news from the other side. Well, that's a pretty bad ending of it all. Once it became clear to Ignaris that the rites were drawing to a close, he knew that it was time for him and the Tempest to call it quits. But first he and the Tempest decided to celebrate, and that they did for many, many nights. The revelry did eventually subside. The exiles parted amicably and went their separate ways. He roamed the downside then, searching for some meaning in his life, sometimes taking odd jobs requiring his brute strength. He never remained alone for very long, and took on many lovers in his time. However, he sometimes thought about the one he had called Curly Horns, and what became of her. Through his glory days as the most powerful conductor of the rites had since passed, he always enjoyed the fearsome reputation he had cultivated at the time. That's an okay ending, Oralek. After the Shimmerball closed for what would be the last time, Oralek looked around him in the flickering light of a Nightwing's still burning pyre. He then turned towards the Ford of Solium and looked up towards the black starless sky. After standing thus for some time, he averted his gaze and walked away without a word. Oralek had relinquished his freedom of his own free will. Perhaps in realising this, he saw no reason to remain there on the sacred mountain. For many moons, he wandered the downside alone. Eventually, however, he would reunite with the exiles that he stood with as the true Nightwings, for they each cared for him. Ah, the one he had called the Shadow of the False Nightwings was someone who he thought about at times. He wondered if this reader had an influence over Commonwealth's fall. News must have reached him, eventually, about the outcome of Alfred Sandalwood's plan. One day, he appeared before his former companion. While they kept private the details of a conversation that took place, it must have been enough to rebuild a bond of friendship between the two of them. They were often seen together after that. Still, in the Siren Union, no one remembered the former chief physician who had fallen into exile decades prior. No one knew just how close he came to altering the outcome of a final liberation rite, and thus perhaps to altering the course of history. We would not be here if not for him, so... Today, however, this is not the case. Accounts from other exiles of the Downside have ensured that Oralex's place in the events that shape our world as known shall be known. Nice, he's also remembered in history. I'm going to be honest, we got a really good ending for everyone, I think. After the cycle of rites ceased turning, the lone minstrel bade the remaining Nightwings take the Black Wagon and seek their fortune elsewhere in the Downside. The parting was heartfelt but brief. He remained there at the summit of Mount Alodia with Celeste, where the two of them would chronicle the final outcome of the cycle. Neither Tarek nor Celeste are ever seen again. We know all this now through song attributed to them. Some claim these songs originated from the taverns of the Siren Union and merely were imbued with a weight of folklore. However, exiles liberated from the Downside corroborated each other's claims at having met the Dio that presided over the liberation rites. Another folktale suggested that these minstrels are heralds of the scribes, having fulfilled their obligations, but departed the world we know and rejoined their patrons. That makes sense. They're meant to be kind of like angels, aren't they? One of their famous songs describes another simple outcome, but the two gave up their duties to write in favour of a life that they could share together. Yeah, I like that ending better. In any case, they are likely to remain the subject of such verses and such songs, for it was they who watched over the rites and ushered in our times. Ah, but what of us? There's one more account which warrants mention. The Nightwings conducted the rites under the guidance of a reader. Little is known of her. It's me! That's me! However, some accounts of her begin to paint a picture. We know she was of common birth, always directionless, and prone to misremembering at times. The journey to the Downside left her close to death. It was then that the Nightwings found her. They brought her from the brink. She showed them a path. She pressed onward with the others. She had made a vow to help her friends be free. Thus did the cycle of the rites commence its final turns. When the final rite arrived, the reader's freedom was at stake. The freedom she, indeed, achieved. The morning lights. Or the morning lights? I don't know how you say that word. From that point on, accounts of her diverge. It is said the voice, which troubled her, she never heard again. Some say she opted to retreat from public life, though whether that is true, only she knows. Someday, perhaps a reader's own star shall emerge, then it shall pierce the dark of a night in all its brilliant glory. Until such time, and ever after, all of us give thanks. What a game Pyre was. It was almost hour long, this final episode. It's a good thing I did manage to split up this one and the previous one. Oh, honestly, I could split up this one into two, but I don't think we need to, I'm going to be honest. Turn up the music, as you always do in the final bits of the episode. Sorry, of the game. Awaken the Nightwings. So is it believed that we became some sort of voice or something in the sky as a reader? Is that Headwind? Oh, is this like kind of like the statues which were grown? Grown? Didn't grow statues which were made. Headwind Jodariel? It is. Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Pyre. I didn't think I'd enjoy it as much as I did. I didn't realise how story-centric it was, I'm going to be honest. Pyre is basically... if you're wondering more about my thoughts of it, I would recommend searching up my Animal Crossing episode, which I'm going to make later today, where I'll probably talk more in depth about my thoughts on Pyre and the things about it. I did not expect to like it nearly as much as I did. Oh! Is that me at the back? Right, so this is us when we were still down, when it was just us five. Oh, it's so adorable. Captain Jodariel. Supergiant Games, fantastic game. Rookie looks very different in that statue, I'm not gonna lie. Wait. Rookie Greentail. Oh wait, does this story actually change depending on the ending? Is that me? Actually, Ashley, Barrett, Darren, and Cole. I don't recognise those voices. Ah, so all of them who didn't return back are facing the other way. Oh, it's so pretty. Is that armor? This song is adorable. Oh no, that's Headwind at the back. That's him fishing. Oh no, Tiso's facing that way. This song must change depending on your ending. That is cool. So this is my own custom song. I don't want to talk over it much then. I do feel a bit sad about separating me and Tiso. That's really cool. Hold on. That's something I've got to search on my phone. Pyre custom song. So that's Tamitha as Rookie, Headwind. Okay, Tamitha's hair looks... Oh, sorry, not Tamitha. Tamitha's hair looks much more reasonable in that thing. Oh, it's Sir Gilman, I didn't realise. I thought it was just part of a boat. Cast Jedial. I don't recognise any of these people, I don't think. Oh, bound together. Pyre's got a wiki, apparently. I guess that makes sense. And there's like, stay true to you and cut much over Madden, she's still true to the end. Wait, that was her hair? Ah. What's going on back there? I like the friendship between Bertrude and Wilfred. Right, so if it says they stay true to the end. Wait, it says she stays true to the end of a wiki here rather than she remained to the end. Lyrical variations, hold on. The version of a song played over credits depends on each character's verse depending on whether they are liberated or not. In addition, the lines which refer to read are modified by pronouns of the player chosen game. So they either find a way home or stay true to the end. Oh, so cool. That is really cool. Man, what a cool game. Like, yeah, as I said, I didn't expect to, like, enjoy it as much as I did because I thought, oh, that is background worthy. That's gorgeous. Oh, that's what we look like. Oh, there is a canonical depiction of what the reader looks like. No, I just made it up. For the thumbnail art. Well, okay, I'd have to beat the entire game first to figure it out. Aww. I love my story games, so it's no surprise that I ended up loving it so much. Like this. But yeah, I thought genuinely this was mainly a sports game with light story elements. It's basically a story visual novel where you play like a sports game to determine some parts of a visual novel. It's far more story focused than anticipated, but that was wonderful. Ah, I'm so happy I got a reasonably good ending for most people, I think. What's this then? Oh, is this our ending? Hold on, turn this down again. Found a way home. So is this where we ended up? Ah, it's all the triumvirates on the stained glass window around there, isn't it? I recognise the Nightwings and the True Nightwings on the right and left, respectively. What's that in the background? Is that the Commonwealth? Ah, I wonder what... The end. Ah, thank you, Supergiant Games. What a fantastic game. Ah, that's so cool. Ah. Also, this must have been a nightmare of a library to draw. Wait a minute, these bookshelves are mirrored. But still. True Nightwing campaign mode unlocked. I don't know if I'm going to do that, I'm going to be honest, but... What a fantastic game. I'm going to return to a main menu. I don't know what the True Night Wings campaign is. I don't think there is anything else really left for us to do in Pyre. So we can load again from just before the end. I don't know what the True Night Wings campaign is. I'll Google it while I'm here, why not? Just so I can tell you. I assume it's just everything's on hard mode. Centerpiece of our last update, hold on. True Nightwing update. New campaign mode that's unlocked if you finish a campaign. It's the Iron Man mode, okay. Advanced playing through. Ah, okay, so base difficulty unlocked. Some Titan stars must be used. Enlightenment is scaled. Cannot load checkpoints or restart rites. I don't know, you could do that anyway. Book of Rites and White Loot fully unlocked, makes sense. Slag Market, so it's basically New Game Plus. Slag Market, it's basically being able to do the campaign with everything that you've unlocked from the end of the last campaign. Feats of Glory introduced much sooner, makes sense. Oh, what a good game. As I said, if you're interested in more my more in-depth thoughts about this thing, search up the Animal Crossing episode, which will probably have come out about a month ago from when this is published or so, and it's going to be called Pyre. You can listen to my thoughts about it then. You might have already listened to it then if you're subscribed, which I'd urge you to do already if you're interested in more on my gameplay with things like this. I'll probably delve into it more in there because, you know, this is the end of the episode, but all in all, I thoroughly enjoyed my time here with Pyre, and I hope you enjoyed, you know, coming along on this journey and seeing the growth of our characters and all that. But for now, and our final time, if you have been watching, thank you very much that this entire adventure, this game and this entire adventure has been in Pyre, and I've been Dear Darling. Any likes, comments, subscription, shares are all greatly appreciated. Join the Dear Darling Discord and follow me on Twitter down below, and I hope we can see each other again on whatever our next journey is. But for now, it's our final farewell. So, until next time, bye bye for now.